So we've seen the management plane. Now let's pick out the control plane. From the control plane point of view, we're going to see pretty much no configuration at all, or just few configurations, because as you're going to see, the control plane features that I'm going to speak about are going to be let's say pretty much a bit more advanced, which are not in the for the CCNA exam. You would ideally just need to know the basics of control plane features. Some of them we're gonna show them live at the CLI. We're gonna just speak about it, and probably more advanced details about specific control plane features are gonna be described in the CCNP curriculum. So control plane, as you can imagine, based on when we define the planes of a network device, the control plane, the functionality of the control plane, it is crucial to the network. So that means that securing the control plane is a very important aspect in general to be performed. Because if you think about it, if the router is being attacked or flooded and its CPU is going to be rapidly hitting 90 to 100% load, then with high CPU, unexpected behavior can happen, like the router can reload or crash. And at the same time, because the router's CPU is overloaded, then it's not going to be able to process switch all of the control plane received packets, which means you're going to encounter packet drops on relevant and important protocols that the router should be processing, like for example routing protocol and ARP packet drops. And clearly, because router forwarding capability, which is the ultimate goal of a router or of a switch or of a firewall in general, of course the firewall scope is mainly to secure the traffic and then to route it, but in the end it doesn't matter if I secure the traffic if I cannot route it or send it to the destination. So all devices connected to the network devices, their primary scope is to actually be able to route the packets or switch the packets back and forward. So because the router forwarding capability or the switching capability or the firewall forwarding capability relies on functionality of routing and ARP mainly, because nowadays Ethernet is more and more present everywhere. You can imagine that if those two protocols don't work because of the high CPU, you can imagine that the whole network is going to melt down and nothing is going to work. Like if you take your network, and let's say that in the core of your network, which connects everything, that device has a CPU problem. Its CPU got overloaded. It is being under attack. The control plane got attacked. The processor got overloaded, and then the router is going to start randomly dropping control plane packets, and it's going to start also randomly dropping R packets and routing protocol packets. You can imagine that if the control plane of that device in the core of the network breaks, then everything is going to be darkness. Nobody can speak with nobody else in the network, because everything passes to the center, the core of the network, and the core of the network is broken from control plane point of view, which means data plane is broken as well. And we don't have to even speak about the domino effect, the fact that a control plane the control plane of a router has, is constantly flapping. We don't even have to mention that is going to cause flapping also to other networks, to all of the other routers in the network. Like for example, if you and me have a BGP adjacency or OSPF adjacency, and I have a control plane problem, and I'm going to start dropping OSPF packets, then my adjacency with you is going to start flapping. Then that's going to cause an SPF rerun on your side. It's going to cause you to reflood all LSAs in the network. It's going to be a domino effect, which can cause the whole network to melt down and never recover that easily. So that's why we have to make sure that routing protocol packets have to be authenticated for protection against spoofing a list. So we're gonna have to secure the control plane of the router. But even when the control plane of the router is being secured, so I'm gonna make sure that the router is able to process all of the routing protocol packets and our packets. Those packets are still unsecure, so those protocols like routing protocols and ARP protocol is still susceptible to specific attacks. So even if I want to secure the control plane to make sure that the router is able to process the control plane packets, still I gotta make sure that the two protocols that actually are gonna make the router be able to forward packets back and forward, which is running an ARP, I gotta make sure that both of them are secure. Because anybody can connect a router in the network and start speaking OSPF or BGP or EIGRP, and if I have not configured authentication of those protocols in my network, then I'm going to be susceptible to spoofed OSPF packets, spoofed EIGRP packets, spoofed RIP packets, which means anybody can break my routing protocol and can inject spoofed routes in my routing table, and you can imagine where that leads to. Likewise, if our packets are spoofed because our protocol is very vulnerable, then that means that my IP to MAC binding is no longer going to be accurate. So I'm going to end up sending the packets to whoever knows or to nowhere in general. So I got to make sure that those two very important control plane protocols, ARP and routing protocols, are going to be authenticated at any point in time.